Welcome to Coffee and Conversations, mini episodes by victims and villains, and I am your host, Captain Nostalgia. If you guys are new to Victims and Villains, we are a podcast extension of the nonprofit that educates and engages individuals on mental health awareness and suicide prevention through pop culture. Now, the thing to keep in mind about this particular episode that you guys are getting ready to listen to is that we had every intention to actually release it as a vlog for our YouTube channel, and somewhere along the way, the video just got destroyed and we faced technical difficulties. But nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoy this conversation that we had with writer-director behind the movie Donna, Stronger Than Pretty, Mr. Jaret Martino. I am joined by new staff. Welcome, Miss Abigail Bardwell.
Hi, thank you. I'm really excited.
This will be his second time on the platform. Mr. Jaret Martino. He is the writer and director of the brand new film Donna, Stronger Than Pretty. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, man. I don't know if you remember, we did an interview back when Stronger Than Pretty was still a short, back in the summer of 2017. And when I got an offer to interview, I was like, man, that's really cool that I got to see it when it was like this like short film, and like now it's a feature length. So congratulations on the feature length.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I recognized the name when the PR sent it through. Were you at Sundance at the Indie Lounge as well, or?
I wasn't. I've never been to Sundance. It's on my bucket list though.
One day.
Yeah. Did you see it at a festival, or we kind of went around the world with the short film?
I think I saw it online, in all honesty. I think I came across it on Facebook or Facebook group or somewhere on YouTube.
Yeah, we kind of have it out.
Sent it to me. But I don't know. I honestly don't remember how I came across it. I think it might have even just been through a Vimeo link that you had sent me, or someone that worked on the film, because just alone, I think the subject matter of what the short and now the feature film is about, I really wanted to bring awareness to that, because I feel like Donna, Stronger Than Pretty is a really important piece of cinema, and it's a really heavy truth that not a lot of people maybe are aware of, or maybe are aware and don't talk about it enough. Mm-hmm. So on that platform, can you kind of share with us what the story is based around?
Yeah, I'd love to. And, thanks for your bravery as well in this platform. This is the type of conversation that is causing ripple effects and shifts and all the necessary changes. Having these hard conversations is really important, and so it starts here. It's this is why we continue to press forward to make the film, and didn't do it the Hollywood version, the Hollywood way. I really wanted to be truthful in that it takes time to go from being a victim to a survivor, and all that the details of what you're up against. Because oftentimes it isn't just the abuser that is contributing; it's society in general as a whole, because of thousands of years of conditioning of not talking about the root issue, which is domestic violence. So that really kept me going and re-inspired, because at times, because it is so personal, it is my mother's story. There was definitely moments after doing the short, like we did our job, we put it out there and we could have just stopped right there. But the handshakes and the emails and the outreach, every time that we knew we changed the course of a life or saved somebody's life, it was just so inspiring to keep going and to create a feature that really is the product in the media that can then have the largest ripple effect.
Yeah, that's something that I first of all, I'm not a movie crier. Like it takes a lot. My first movie I cried in was Air Bud. So guys, but just when he goes on the island, it just hurt my heart. But I cried numerous times during this movie. I am a domestic violence survivor, and so it definitely resonated in a lot of ways with me, watching that organic build up and just how it's never one thing. It really is just like you said, like a product of the environment and a lot of intergenerational traumas and harms. And I guess that's one of my questions I had for you is, how did you kind of approach going about like the intergenerational trauma? Because that's something that I really noticed in this film.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. I think it was kind of, it was dealing with my own trauma of being a product of not only this environment, but society that, growing up, having a single parent isn't something that's celebrated. So I just wanted to do something as a filmmaker and personally to celebrate that and to say, hey, we need to normalize this. Like, these people are doing, my mom played mother and father so beautifully. And, that should be acknowledged. It should be celebrated. It's a beautiful thing. So, there was definitely that piece for me, and just intergenerational trauma as far as me having to decide as a man in this world how I want to be, and to break away from that. So really, we do all have a choice. It's the conditioning that I really wanted to show and demonstrate that that choice is sometimes not easy to see. It's because it's been passed down. It's what we grew up with, and that's why I always say in every interview that we'll never see the full potential of a Me Too or Time's Up until we have conversations that surround domestic violence, because it starts at home. My mom worked her way to be a public school teacher, and she always told me firsthand, like, it starts at home with these kids and how they act and react and treat their peers. And obviously then that carries on to their own relationships and families. So yeah, just, that was a huge point for me. And I think a lot that people miss, unfortunately, because it's, it's easier to say, especially for male critics of a certain age and generation, to say, why didn't you leave? What's wrong with you? And immediately victim shaming. That makes my skin crawl.
Have you noticed like a different response in your viewers, the male viewers versus the female viewers, and like how they kind of interact with this? Because I feel, just as a female viewer watching it, I saw myself definitely interacting more on the female perspective. But, that is a really good point that, we have been so conditioned of the, why didn't you leave? So what is that like for you in your response?
And that's, exactly why I wanted to focus on the empowerment, because the media capitalizes on the victim shaming and the victim, herself, and sometimes himself. What I've certainly learned is that although this is a women's empowerment issue, this does happen to men and women. And there's all different forms of abuse: emotional, physical, financial, verbal. So yeah, I really wanted to put in all those details and layers that I think are often missed, and that, unfortunately, other media that has covered this, and it was suggested through the development to give Donna a gun, to have her learn or be in a situation where it wasn't her own voice or wasn't her own mind that made the difference. And that wasn't okay for me either. It's like, we have enough with J-Lo, like we have those, other movies that they do the commercial version, quite frankly. That's just not who I am as a person and what my company speaks to and is about. I through everything I do, there has to be, if there isn't a women's empowerment thread, and I started this 8 years ago, I very much look for one. And if it can't have one, then I probably don't spend my time on it.
Yeah. There's a particular scene actually where Donna's actually talking to Agatha. I feel like
Agnes, yeah.
Agnes. That's one of my favorite names.
It was the friend. I really would.
Oh, Arlene.
Arlene, that's the name. Man, I feel so ashamed. That is definitely a king of the hill. Let me back that up.
Sure.
There's a scene where Arlene is comforting Donna in the car, and she's kind of talking about those questions that you're talking about. And I'm so glad that Abigail brought up the intergenerational trauma and the cycle of violence and how violence breeds violence. And that's one thing that I think that this film captures extraordinarily well. And you really capture that journey of when is enough, and that the character study of Donna is this evolution of all of this violence and then a breaking point, and what that breaking point entails. And from someone that actually, lived this, watching your mom kind of go through all of this stuff, and how was it for you to kind of like sit down as the writer and start to almost kind of like relive some of this stuff through your mom's account?
Yeah, I certainly did relive as the director, and watching all this play out. And it was hard, it was very, very difficult, but it also gave me a different perspective that, and I think helped transmute a lot of that, and helped our family realize that we're not victims, we're survivors. And a lot of people don't get that chance because it's really, it becomes something on a cellular level that just is ingrained in your body, that level of trauma. When you have, fear and isolation and all these things that end up being in the mix. So yeah, getting back to the Arlene thing that you had mentioned in the beginning, my mom's best friend was Arlene. My Aunt Arlene, we call her Aunt Arlene.
That's awesome.
She was that person that was, that gave perspective and that, gave her voice and support. And there was a lot of different Arlenes, throughout the way, but there was also everything we showed as far as like getting into the workforce and different things. Just as a woman, I don't even think you need to be in an abusive situation or know that to resonate with this film, because it shows in all the different scenarios how manipulation and other people's traumas, then play into how a woman just gets treated, like versus a man. And I saw that growing up my mom's whole life because she was this stunningly beautiful woman. So she was judged for that and then put in a category, in a box, and she really had to fight her way through everything she did. She worked cleaning houses and waitressing and putting herself through school full time to become what her ultimate dream was a public school teacher. By the end of it, it was, a dozen years later, by the time she gets finished with her master's and everything else, and she would laugh and say, maybe I should just been a doctor because it's such a long commitment and a lot of education. So I also wanted to share like what teacher, part about being a public school teacher and acknowledge them, in a movie. And although we don't really like get into her career, we see, that leadership, that strength to stand in front of a classroom. I think for my mom when she talks about her days in an abusive situation and it being a dark hole and a tunnel that she never thought she'd get out of, standing in front of a classroom and commanding a class and having the knowledge and the grounding and all that it takes to educate, I think is a huge symbol of healing.
Yeah. I actually, oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say I was happy that we ended the film on that note, because she then went on, and that was her career, or the rest of her life.
I love that so much. Like one of my biggest things in my life is I've been impacted so much by teachers, because like it's who you access if you are living in a violent situation, or you are living in a bad situation. And my question for you is like what sort of advice would you have for people who are sort of like exploring this creatively and wanting to tell their story creatively? Like what advice would you give?
It was an evolution for me, because I started as a kid as an actor. So it was just like, that was kind of my way to express my voice. And then I was encouraged to make my own work. So it was kind of through, like, I started with documentary, and I was compelled and valued, like, just the strength that it took other people to share their story, and the vulnerability that took, because as an actor, you kind of like always have this script to hide behind. So I had to kind of cross that for myself, and that become a mark for me to have the strength. I don't know. I guess my advice would be that, to whatever it is, find that within yourself. And if it's not in filmmaking, journal writing, and just talking to whoever will listen, in terms of getting to that point of having the bravery and perseverance to really take it on, but in a healthy way. You want it to be healthy. And I think that's why it took 8 years naturally. Films do just take a long time, but there was very much a process, and people that were influential and impactful along the way, to my own healing and to making this film ultimately what it was. We're proud partners with the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and that's something I'll, going to that conference and speaking in front of over 1,000 advocates, and having time with the CEO, Ruth Glenn, are all things that added like such an incredible amount, because I didn't want to miss a beat in, what may have been in my mother's journals, but we missed. My co-writer did a beautiful job at not only speaking with my mom, but actually going through her physical journals and reading through all of that. But meeting these people and getting like a firsthand experience on their words and what mattered to them, that was really, really important to me. So I think time, like, just take your time with it, is a really good point. And if it is like a victim story, in terms of it being a true story that's important to that creative to bring to light, coming to the place that you are healed enough to know it's not your fault, and that was like a huge message of the film as well, that we want all women to know out there that it's not your fault, no matter what anybody tries to say and do.
I love that. That's really cool about your mom's journals, and that's cool that that's how you source some of the content.
Yeah, I wrote the heartbeat of it, but we wanted to get this into the best screenplay format it could be, and really be truthful to exactly, because I have my own memories, but it is ultimately Donna's story, obviously. So yeah, there was a lot of valuable work that happened between Pat Branch, our co-writer from the WGA, and my mom personally, and then with the cast, and especially Kate Wilmington, who then played Donna. A really cool thing, like, that kind of goes along those lines, is Kate slept in my mother's bed. My mom gave up her bed and went to her mom's house for the making. So Kate really walked in the shoes and like pulled stuff. We had an amazing costume designer, Stephanie Lindsay, to take us through 30 plus years. But yeah, Kate really lived my mom's life in like a month, while filming. So it was it was at times really interesting. I found myself, I was consoling her through, because as an artist, you get so, she was so invested and so amazing with the attention to detail that I, in the parts, in the trauma, in what she was reliving, I was able to then, what was the beautiful thing is like, I was far enough removed from my own story that I could console the woman playing my mother, which was like
that.
Such a full circle moment.
That's awesome.
I think one of my favorite moments in this movie is the very end where it's a minor spoiler, but you guys actually, the audience gets to see an on-screen appearance from your own mother, the story that we just spent the last 100 minutes with this character. And there's a point in that video where we actually get to see her and Kate go through like old photo albums and stuff like that. Now, was that always the intent for you guys to kind of end on that note, or did you guys have many different ideas of like videos that you guys wanted to showcase with your mother and Kate and kind of getting into that role?
Yeah, it was a part of the short, and people just responded to it really well. And like I said, like at every event, like pre-pandemic when we were at these live events, people just wanted to come up to my mom and shake her hand and hug her and thank her, for the bravery and honesty. And people had left their situations and people started writing in. We have worldwide traffic just from the short alone, that people, just the vulnerability of this story, whether they were abused or not, there was something in Donna that they just identified with and wanted to, and then they in turn use that for their own strength. So yeah, I think that just naturally, and it being based on a true story, was an important part to put in. This movie is also, very much part of my mom's legacy. She passed away September 3rd of 2020. Mm-hmm. Never expecting that we wouldn't have her here while celebrating the release. She was coming up to her retirement and had pancreatic cancer, and it all happened really quick. So yeah, this movie, is something that during my own grief process, I'm getting to speak about her on a daily basis and say her name in a time where, a lot of people it's easier to stay in bed or to never mention, that person again sometimes, because it's just really difficult,
That's like, I feel like that's a very beautiful thing to have, because it's so easy to say, like, with intergenerational trauma, it's a butterfly effect, it causes so much pain and like it trickles down. But with your situation, I'm so sorry to hear about your mom passing, but it's like you took that healing and it's like the opposite effect. It's, it's taking that piece and building off of it. It's kind of like, the pit of that bell curve has been hit and now it's going the opposite direction. And I think that's a really wonderful message to have about things like this, is that it can be so healing in so many different cathartic ways.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much using, the same lessons of the film in terms of like the strength and determination that it takes to leave a situation and to build a better life for yourself and your children. I'm having to do in my personal life right now, because my mom wouldn't want me just to stay in bed and to stop talking about the story. The last 3 weeks of her life, all she asked me is what's happening with the film. That was definitely like something that was very important to her, that her voice was heard and that would continue to be heard, because her plan was after retirement that she was donating time to domestic violence organizations and traveling with the film to do events that we have set up during Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So her retirement was going to involve a lot of this work.
Yeah.
That's really awesome and really encouraging to hear. And I think the idea of taking a story like your mom's and bringing it to the formats of short film and feature length film, who was the person that kind of thought about that? Because you talked about, you have this background in acting and doing documentaries, and I'm just kind of curious where the idea to take your mom's story and bring it to those platforms came from.
Yeah, I think it was a natural evolution just for who I was as a producer at that point. This is my 20th film, so and before all that was a lot of shorts and different things that I learned a tremendous amount from, and I was working with the same team. I kind of created like the old group theater that way, where it's I kept bringing back a lot of the same actors, and so it felt really good because I had a tremendous amount of support. So that was an easy, like, that kind of created a bridge to, what, we can do this. Like, let's take this on, especially for our first feature out of the gate that covers so much time and so many time periods and cars, and we had a cast and crew of over 200 people. So, you also are just like, part of it is just, you're a little bit out of your freaking mind, and I think you have to be. I mean, there's no filmmaker that would say there's like, you're totally sane throughout that time.
Yeah, going back to the costuming, like, I thought that was so beautiful how it was done. First of all, I want all of her outfits. I was like, every gender, like even through the 80s, which is such a, I don't know how you went through that. And I was like, yes, I want to dress like her. But no, it was so wonderful. How
our designer will be singing your praises for those kudos.
It impacts me to this day. Like, I had a sweater and I was like, this is like a Donna sweater. But it's like, what sort of, I know costuming was a really good way to get the time period across, but was there any other sort of like aspects you were worried about getting that across, or, any other ways?
I think there was a fear because of society, like, well, if we have her in, my mom always just had really rocking outfits, and sometimes she made them, and she made the kids matching outfits, and so we definitely wanted to include like Donna's spirit in that, and who she just was. But it was important to me, like, as far as when she did break off and like there was financial abuse involved, because we covered that in the court where she wasn't supported. Meanwhile, Nick in the story, and in real life, rolls up to court in a Porsche and has the best attorney money can buy, and Donna was left with $50 a month for child support, and it's like, that doesn't put food on the table. So I very much we had repeat outfits at that point, and t-shirt and jeans, and just how my mom did actually make it through with the sacrifice. So yeah, that was really important to me. But telling the time periods, obviously, like costumes, we had to rely on a lot of costumes and the cars, and luckily, like, what's cool is we kind of created a time capsule for Long Island, because I helped people up from construction. This film, there was a guy who wanted to put like vinyl siding on his house, and I was like, no, like, we need those heater shakes, like those are gold, that's like the only thing that's going to make that house believable. So this film did so much of that, like, not only with the costumes but all around.
I think my last question that I want to say that was a surprise to me was how much of these tender moments that are actually in the movie, and also how much of a musical influence this film has. I think that was kind of one of the most surprising elements to me. Where did the idea come from having such a heavy influence with music, and then also how important were those tender moments to keep with these characters?
Oh, so important. I mean, I've been working with Eric DeLong, who's my composer, and he's just brilliant. So he brought us through so much of that independently. But of course, like Wild Thing and My Girl, and things that we had to license are in there, and they're important timestamps, and really valuable to have. So all that is like in everything I do, it's incredibly important. Music can make or break a film, so I'm super proud of the score. And as far as keeping those tender moments, like I think the love that's in between, I think everything comes back to love, like at the end of the day, and that's kind of what my production company and as an actor, it's all about love, and that's kind of what's also forgotten for these characters in abusive situations, that they love each other, and it's an intense love, and it's the love of their life. So so all that's very important. And that said, I would just want to reiterate, like, it's not your fault to the audience and anybody who's watching this. We do have a Get Help page on donnathemovie.com, on strongerthanpretty.com, and we're proud partners with the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And all that information and help with our advocates and organizations that we've partnered with is up on the website. So there is help out there, and a lot of these organizations can help with food and shelter, and even beautiful programs like art therapy and different things for kids that I didn't have as a child. So again, on donnathemovie.com, on strongerthanpretty.com, all that information's right on our Get Help page.
I love that.
We're going to provide a link in the description wherever you guys are currently watching this video. We'll also include where you guys can find the movie to rent or to purchase digitally, as well as Jaret's original appearance on Victims and Villains. But I also want to encourage you guys that if you are watching this right now and you're struggling in a situation like in domestic abuse, to use those resources to reach out and understand that, like Jaret just said, is not your fault, and to get help, tell your story. And also, we want to encourage you guys that if you're watching this and you're struggling with suicide, addiction, self-harm, or depression, to please also reach out. Suicide is currently the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. There are 130 as of this recording and this / video that there are that take place on American soil. And when you look to international numbers, there are 800,000 that take place every year. That is one death roughly every 40 seconds. So please, if you are someone you know is struggling, we encourage you guys to reach out. Again, we're going to have resources in the descriptions below, wherever you guys are watching this video, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook. Please use these and reach out. Jaret, thank you so much for taking time to talk about the movie. Congratulations on the juggernaut that is Donna Stronger Than Pretty.
Thank you so much. I didn't mean to laugh through what you were saying. I was just thinking about watching that old episode, and I don't remember what I said. So
I'm gonna have to look into that one. I'm excited. It's like a directorial cut for me.
All right. Well, until next time, make sure that you guys hit the subscribe button or the like button, and that bell icon, so when we do go live, when we do upload new content, you guys are the first to see and get hope-filled content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and go check out Donna Stronger Than Pretty.
I just want to say too, you guys are doing such amazing, important work, and every platform in the media should lend their voice to this, and not feed into the old Hollywood and the old model. It's really damaging, and it can perpetuate exactly what you guys are speaking up against. So that's praise and thank you tremendously, and from the world, not just me, from everybody. those voices. It's really amazing that you're taking the time to do that.
Man, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Those kind words. We'll also provide a link for our review of Donna Stronger Than Pretty as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Once again, go check out.
I'm drinking beer. I'm not sure that this is a big bottle of water. I was like,
no, you're good.
bottle.
We're hydrated.
All right, have a good one, guys.